Is that great? Well, good afternoon. As Attorney General, protecting Kentuckians is my top priority. Our mission in this office is to ensure every Kentucky family lives in a safe neighborhood and has a real path to prosperity. And let me make clear that a safe neighborhood isn't just a neighborhood free from violence. It's a neighborhood free from drugs and from addiction. We go about trying to achieve this mission every day by addressing 4 challenges that can face any Kentucky family. Number 1, the prevention and prosecution of child abuse. Number 2, better protecting our seniors against scams and abuse. Number 3, seeking justice for victims of rape and sexual assault. And number 4, finding workable solutions to this drug epidemic that has ravaged our communities. Our biggest challenge, our biggest threat to this state is our addiction epidemic. It's the single greatest threat to the lives of our people. We have a record number of children in foster care or kinship care because drugs have taken their parents. And we have so many parents, including the folks that are up here, who have had their children taken from them. It is our single greatest moral threat, the single greatest threat to the lives of our families. It's also the single greatest threat to economic development here in Kentucky. Whether or not we can be the state we want to be and have the jobs we want to have depend on how we respond to this epidemic. The parents that are here today have known the terrible loss that is losing a child to a fatal overdose. Sadly, they are not alone. Last year, more than 190 Kentuckians died from a drug overdose from the powerful prescription opioid Opana ER. Opana ER is 3 times more powerful than morphine. Opana's manufacturer, Endo Pharmaceuticals, knew that it was a dangerous and highly addictive drug. They also knew that until recently, doctors prescribed and patients only used strong opioids for short-term acute pain, for cancer, and for end-of-life pain. Opioids were viewed as too addictive and too dangerous for regular use. That left Endo with a small, limited market for their product. They knew they'd only be able to increase sales if Opana ER were prescribed for long-term use for more common pain, very far from cancer or end-of-life pain. We're talking about pain like back problems, arthritis, or even headaches. To make that happen, Endo had to persuade doctors that their product was safe enough for widespread, long-term use, even for relatively minor pain. Even though they knew their opioid products were addictive and possibly lethal, Endo forged ahead with a marketing plan targeting doctors and patients to build a bigger market. And build it they did to the tune of record profits. After helping create the market for the widespread use of opioids to treat chronic pain, they learned that Opana ER was being widely abused. Was Endo worried that people were now addicted to their drug? No. They were worried their profits would decline. They were worried about themselves. To protect their sales, Endo launched a reformulated Opana ER, which they promised would deter abuse, even though the FDA and Endo's own studies and data rejected that claim. Even though Endo's own studies and data rejected that claim, Endo promoted reformulated Opana ER like its predecessor as safe. It was not safe. It was readily injectable by opioid addicts, making widespread prescribing inappropriate and dangerous. In fact, the CDC linked Opana ER to a wave of infections transmitted through intravenous drug use, including hepatitis C and HIV. The CDC specifically identified 220 counties across this country that were at the greatest risk of similar outbreaks of Hep C and HIV. 54 of those counties, roughly 25%, are in Kentucky. 13 of our counties, virtually all in the eastern portion of our state, are in the top 20 most vulnerable. At each juncture, Endo put its profits above the lives of our people and above patient safety. And rather than help limit the opioid epidemic by reporting potential diversion through illicit prescribing, as it is obligated to do under federal and state law, Endo looked the other way. All the while, Kentuckians were dying. They willingly and willfully contributed to this opioid epidemic. They knowingly put tens of thousands of Kentuckians at risk of addiction and death. They do not care. They still don't care. But we do. It's my duty to ensure that companies that puts profits over people take responsibility. Endo is one of a group of multinational billion-dollar drug companies whose products have ravaged this state, our state, and the families up here. Yet to date, they have not reinvested one dime to fix the problems that they've caused. We are here today to announce the filing of our complaint against Endo Pharmaceuticals for the widespread damage done by Opana and Opana ER. We're following through on our promise to parents who have lost children and loved ones. Parents like Emily Walden, whose son died from an Opana ER overdose in 2012. Emily is an active vocal advocate that has stood up against Big Pharma to help save others. She's taught people like me the loss that this epidemic has caused. She's made a lot of us in here better people. She's made me a better person, and I am excited for her today that we're going to be seeking justice against the product, against the company that caused the death of her son. Emily? Thank you.
I lost my precious son, TJ, to a highly addictive, dangerous drug, Opana, in 2012. It is time that Endo pay for their actions that have led to the death and destruction throughout Kentucky and across our entire country. I met with the Attorney General a year before he was elected, and I asked at that time if he would investigate the conduct of this company if he were elected. I cannot thank Attorney General Beshear and his office enough for their commitment and dedication to this issue. Thank you for following through with the investigation and now lawsuit against Endo. I believe in personal responsibility, and there is no doubt that my son made some very bad decisions. But there is also responsibility in how these drugs became so accessible. Safety must come before profits. Thank you.
We take any questions?
Andy, what will you do with the money to recover that?
Well, if there is a recovery, dollars will have to be appropriated by the General Assembly, but there is no question that dollars that are received from one of these companies whose products ravage Kentucky, that help drive and cause this opioid epidemic, ought to go back to healing, ought to go back to the families that are struggling with addiction, helping people to break out of that addiction and ultimately repair their own families. We have sadly lost far too many, but there are so many out there that are at risk of being lost. There are too few beds. There are too few options in so many parts of our state. We need to do so much more, and it would be a shame for any dollars that came from a lawsuit against a drug manufacturer for opioids to go anywhere but drug treatment or law enforcement or prevention opportunities.
You talked about how this stuff, this drug company went to the doctors. Do the doctors need to be more informed about what's going on with some of these medicines?
Well, I think doctors are becoming more informed every single day because there are a lot of people out there holding them accountable. Obviously, most of our doctors are great people. Sadly, we have seen some that, like Endo, have put profits above people or the well-being of their patients. That's why we've got groups like our HIDA task force that's out there in eastern Kentucky, making sure we don't have rogue doctors that would flood our communities with these dangerous drugs. It's why I'm leading a group of more than, I think we're up to 40 attorneys general, to pressure insurance companies to prioritize non-opioid forms of pain management, to make sure that incentive is there for the provider, to do everything else first before turning to opioids.
I think if nothing else, these lawsuits definitely, besides recovering money, sends word out to the pharmaceutical companies that, Kentucky, that's it. We're going to take a different stance than maybe this happened in years past.
Well, I announced more than a month ago that we were going to hold responsible the companies that made billions of dollars on products that ravaged our communities. This is just the first of a series of lawsuits that are going to hold those companies accountable. This is about responsibility. This is about the damage that's been done. If dollars are recovered and they can help Kentucky, then good. But in the end, these companies are responsible for this devastation, and they must do their part to repair it.
How do you put a dollar amount on justice, and do you seek a specific dollar amount?
Well, a dollar, any amount of dollars can never make up for the pain of a parent who's lost a child, or the pain a child endures when they lose a parent. This is one form of justice that we can seek through the court system, and I think it will give parents a little bit of justice to hold them accountable, to drag them in front of a court, to make them answer for the damage that they've done. But loss is loss. I hope that this will do a little bit to address it, but I don't fool myself that's still there.
Anybody else?
I had some questions at some other time.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else on this?
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
All right.